What's up, everybody, and welcome back to another episode of the Kids Talk Sports podcast. And on today's episode, I'm going to be reviewing the first day of round one in March Madness. I'm going to be breaking down 5 games, giving you guys my and then some breakdown the games, seeing what the losing teams could have done to win. And then I have some predictions for the second day of the first round, which is today. And then I have a question league for you guys and shout outs at the end of the episode. So let's get into it. So the first game we'll talk about, which was one of the closest and best games, was Michigan, number 5 seeded Michigan versus number 12 seeded UC San Diego. Tyler McGee for UC San Diego had 25 points. He played a really, really good game. Michigan has 2 7-footers, Vlad Golden and Danny Wolf, and UC San Diego center is 6'8", 6'9". So this was a really tough matchup for UC San Diego. They only lost by 3. Vlad Golden had 14 points, which was a decent game for him, but UC San Diego had the ball down 3 with about 7 seconds left. They shot it. It looked good, but rimmed out, and Michigan survives, and they move on to play Texas A&M, who defeated Yale. And in this game, I picked UC San Diego for the upset, and I also picked Yale for the upset, but both those didn't work out. But I thought UC San Diego played a pretty good game. I think the size of Michigan, they were getting a lot of offensive rebounds, so I think the size of Michigan really hurt UC San Diego. And they also had a really slow start with some turnovers. But, shout out to UC San Diego for getting in the tournament. Their first ever year being eligible to play in the tournament they get in, so shout out to them. But Michigan survives by 3. And then the next game we've got, which was probably the most stunning game, the biggest upset of round one, McNeese, number 12 seed McNeese upsets number 5 seeded Clemson 69-67. And the score does not tell the game at all. McNeese was up by 18 points at half. Clemson had 13 points in the first half. They scored 54 in the second half. Just think about that. 13 points in the first half and then 54 points in the second half. McNeese led by 18 at half. Brandon Murray from McNeese had led them in scoring with 21 points. And then Jaden Zachary for Clemson led Clemson with 24 points. He had some clutch threes down the stretch to make this a close game. But McNeese led by as much as 24 in the second half. I'm pretty sure they were up by 24 with about 6 minutes left. Clemson came all the way back. They were down by 8 with 2 minutes left. Then 10 points with a minute to go. They get a steal off the inbound. They hit a 3. Then McNeese gets a dunk, and then Clemson hits another 3. And they kept getting fouls. Then McNeese would miss some free throws. Clemson would go down and hit a 3. McNeese make a dunk. Then Clemson would go down and hit another 3. So Clemson fought back, and they ended up hitting a layup as the time ran out, and they lost by 2. This was a big upset, especially for my bracket. This absolutely busted my bracket because I had Clemson in the Final Four. I was really high on them. They just have a lot of good pieces, so I was really, really high on them, but they get upset by McNeese, 69-67. And then we'll move on to another upset that a lot of people actually could see happening. Drake upsets Missouri 67-57. I thought Drake was severely underrated. I thought they should have at least been a 10 seed. If not, I think they could have got to that 9 spot. But Bennett Sturts, the Larry Bird Missouri Valley Conference Player of the Year, Drake's starting point guard with 21 points. And Drake's going to move on to play Texas Tech, the 3 seed in the second round, where I think they will beat Texas Tech in the second round. They match up really good against them. Just Texas Tech might have a little bit more size over them, but I think Drake can definitely win that game. And Missouri, I don't really know what's going on. Caleb Grill had 14 points. He's usually their best shooter, but he was really off last night. I'm pretty sure he shot 1 for 6 or 1 for 7 from 3. Missouri they had a little bit too many costly turnovers. I don't think they came out ready to play. Drake started off really hot. So Missouri did have a really good season. Last year, if you didn't know, they were 0-18 in the SEC, and now they were a 6 seed in March Madness. But Drake pulls off the upset and moves on to play Texas Tech. And then we've got another upset that was not a big upset, but a little bit of an upset. Arkansas defeats Kansas 79-72 in the battle of 2 legendary coaches, John Calipari and Bill Self. And here's a fact about Kansas. Kansas is the first ever AP preseason number 1. It's before the season started, they were ranked number 1 in the country. They're the first ever AP preseason number 1 ranked team to lose in the first round of March Madness, and it's happened to them twice. That is a fact that you don't want to be on the bad side of. That's a really, really bad statistic. But Arkansas takes down Kansas. Jonas Adu, Tennessee transfer, had 22 points, and Zeke Mayo for Kansas had 18 points. But Arkansas's shooting guard, John L. Davis, he hit some really clutch threes, and he's been to March Madness before. He's been on the big stage. He was on the FAU team when they made a deep run to the Final Four. So he knows. I think him and Jonas Adu. Jonas Adu was on the Elite Eight Tennessee team last year. I think them two can really lead this young Arkansas team to a deep run, and maybe upset St. John's in the second round. We're going to see another matchup of legendary coaches with John Calipari and Rick Pitino. So that'll be a really interesting game. Arkansas beats Kansas 79-72. This was a scoring shootout in the first half, but then the defenses kind of started to come together and play better in the second half. And then next up, we've got BYU versus VCU, 11 versus 6. VCU was the 11. BYU wins 80-71. Zeb Jackson for VCU led the team with 23 points. Richie Sanders for BYU led the team with 16 points. And if you didn't know, Richie Sanders' dad or grandpa was like the founder of this like brand of tater tots. So it's a pretty cool stat that I heard. BYU led by 11 at half. They kind of controlled this. So at the start of the game, they were back and forth, but BYU kind of, after about halfway through the first half, BYU just controlled the game the entire time. VCU wasn't boxing out. They weren't getting rebounds. They were just giving up a lot of offensive rebounds, and BYU has really good size. I think that was the key factor why BYU won that game. So to wrap up, to recap all the games, we got Michigan defeats UC San Diego, McNeese upsets Clemson, Drake upsets Missouri, Arkansas beats Kansas, and BYU survives against VCU. And now I've got some day 2 first round picks. So I've got Baylor. So I got 8 seed Baylor defeating 9 seed Mississippi State. 9 seed Baylor defeating number 8 Mississippi State. I got number 12 seed Colorado State pulling off an upset against a banged up number 5 seed Memphis team. I've got 11 seeded North Carolina upsetting number 6 Ole Miss. I've got 6 seed Illinois. I think it'll be a really close game against 11 Xavier, but I think they'll survive. And I've got 8 seeded UConn over 9 seeded Oklahoma. And I've got a little bit of upset. I've got 10 seeded New Mexico to defeat 7 seeded Marquette. And for the I've got some shout outs to give before we end off this episode. So the first shout out goes to Camden, who said that they think the National Player of the Year for college basketball will be Cooper Flagg. And they also said their predictions for the ACC tournament is that Duke will beat Louisville and win that. So they got that right. And then for the SC tournament is that Auburn will win. They got that one wrong, so they went 1 for 1. And then the last shout out goes to Luke. He said he thought that Duke would win the ACC. Got that right. He thought that Florida would win the SEC. Got that right. Michigan would win the Big 10. Got that right. And Houston would win the Big 12. So he got all 4 of them right. So thank you guys for answering the question of the week. And for this week's question of the week is, who do you think will win the national championship? Or do you have any Cinderella teams that you think do you think McNeese could get to a Sweet 16, or maybe Colorado State if they can beat Memphis today? So you can send in that answer to my email. My email is talksportswithmason@gmail.com. Again, my email is talksportswithmason@gmail.com. As always, thank you guys so much for listening. I hope you enjoyed. I will see you next time. Peace.